decide right now that they will. So Helmut, and so they rewrote it to informally check. Keeps working and breaks.
Thank you so much. Thank you for the invitation. I think that after the discussions that we have heard at the Munich Security Conference, it's you won't mind me paraphrasing Tolstoy. But especially after hearing the comments by Mr. Ischinger, I actually discovered that even those that have followed NATO accessions for quite a while, as compared to ourselves, more or less have the same feeling. And this is that, apropos families, NATO accession, every NATO accession is difficult in its own way. And I remember the times when we considered that we had all the difficulties against us, all the odds against us, that we were born and raised in a difficult region with difficult circumstances and in a very, very unpredictable geopolitical context. Well, you turn your eyes to Georgia, you discover that every accession might be even more difficult than your own. So let me say that we are extremely satisfied by our success, and we are extremely satisfied that we are really capable of talking about knocking at NATO's doors, because we have been doing it for 25 years. And every time that I get a question by some of the European journalists asking, why were you in such a hurry? And they say this having in mind this geopolitical new reality, and they consider that our accession to NATO was somehow related to this new relations in the world. I keep saying I haven't heard anyone who is impatient and in a hurry for 25 years. So we have some good and some bad experiences. We have had our ups and downs. There were times in the beginning of our independence, 1993, when all our members of parliament, with a full consensus, voted on a resolution to support our accession to NATO. And it was supported by more than 90% of our citizens. But these were the days of the 90s. These were the days of former Yugoslavia wars. So NATO was in the Balkans, but the Balkans could not even hope to be in NATO. So it was a completely different regional setup. And I think that at that time our aspirations were probably too premature. Following the developments in former Yugoslavia, following our own difficulties in 2001, we have really recreated a new hope for NATO accession after 2002. When we started, similarly to Georgia, to support NATO or NATO member states-led missions abroad in order to show that we can be a security provider and not only a security beneficiary. But due to our open issues with Greece, our hopes were shattered in 2008. When Georgia was satisfied with some of the conclusions, Albania and Croatia joined. But in spite of a very, very strong political statement by the then US President Bush, who actually welcomed Albania, Croatia, and then Macedonia, we did not make it. And this created a 10-year downward process in which our democracy paid a price, in which our security paid a price, and we have seen that all our indicators went downwards. I am happy to say that last year we have made a breakthrough, and that the breakthrough was a result of a number of domestic and regional U-turns. We have dealt with our key domestic difficulties, but we have also dealt with two difficult bilateral issues. First, an agreement with Bulgaria, and then the big breakthrough with Greece. Of course, the world does not wait for you to solve your problems. And we have found ourselves talking about NATO membership in a completely different environment than 10 years ago in 2008. It was a changed geopolitical situation with lots of inner weaknesses in the West. And it took us a while to actually figure out what kind of an approach would work for North Macedonia. So the current challenges required a very real and very strong political will, meaningful reform at home, and we were constantly exposed to a certain kind of stress test. There were developments outside of our control and our powers that kept bugging us here and there. And I have to say now that we are in Munich for the security conference, what a difference an year makes. I remember being here at the Munich Security Conference last year, when everyone was aware that there is a lot of good mood between the two countries, but there was a general doubt whether the two countries can actually deliver, because good mood is one thing, and actually finding a solution to a 3-decade-long problem is a completely different thing. But there was also a very strong domestic doubt, I don't know about Greece, but definitely with us, whether NATO will deliver. And the statements from NATO were not in the beginning always straightforward. So I remember one meeting, unofficial meeting here in Munich, where we got the first indication that actually NATO could consider being quick and issuing an invitation upon the two countries solving the problem. So the big lesson that I learned, the big lesson that we have learned, is that we need the world, we need NATO, we need the open door policy, but we have to make the first move. We could not wait for NATO to signal it's a done deal in order for us to deliver. And this is why we have made the leap of hope, in a way. We have said it takes two to tango, but since we are the ones wanting to get in NATO, we have to issue the invitation first. And this is why we tried being better, we tried being more mature, and we tried being more responsible. I think that last year we managed to deliver a set of domestic reforms, such as the Georgian president has mentioned, media, rule of law, strength of institutions, so that even the most skeptic NATO allies would pay attention. We also paid strong attention to defense reforms, but after hearing these words at many ministerial conferences, I don't want to add more numbers, but we have shown dedication and commitment when it comes to defense reforms and when it comes especially to contributions. So finally, let me say that without the NATO open door policy, without the NATO and the EU promise, probably Greece and Macedonia would not have made the breakthrough. I don't think that the agreement was feasible under those circumstances. But I also have to say that it was our endeavor. It was our decision to take the political risk. And this is why the two prime ministers are rightfully receiving the big MSC reward. It was our success, but the success could also be NATO's success. And this is why I'm glad that you use our experience as an inspiration. We have used the Montenegrin one before. I'm glad that today North Macedonia and Georgia have established diplomatic relations, long overdue probably. We have a lot to offer to each other, experiences, hopes, disappointments. But I do think that the open door policy for NATO was proven, with our case, as alive and kicking. It was proven to be genuine. It has proven to be action and not just words. And I think that it has worked for the stability of the Balkans. I'm sure that with the continuation of this policy, we can talk about stability in other regions as well. So thank you very much.
Thanking both of them very much for their remarks.